Welcome to the Spagirlspodcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Shah Barrett.
I'm Wendy Vella.
And I'm Trudy J. And this is episode 500.
And we may be a bit silly.
Can you believe 500? I
We
mean,
even have a sign. If you're looking, you need to go on YouTube and see the awesome sign that Trudy has made.
in
We
the last
were,
2 minutes,
a minute.
she really put a lot of effort into it too.
To
I
be
was thinking
fair,
I should
it's
have
better
made
than
it
I could have
pink.
done.
Yeah. And we've got lights too.
Yes,
Yes.
we coordinated
Celebration
on the
lights.
lights.
Yeah, we've all got
Because-
celebration lights.
Perfectly hung.
So 500 episodes
well
of
hung
the
lights. Sorry.
Spargirls podcast. Can you believe it? Did
No.
you think?
No.
Did you think that we would get to 500 episodes when we were
No.
sitting there? It was at my family batch at Mangawai Heads,
Yep.
and we were trying to. I remember there was lots of papers all over the table, and
Yeah.
we were kind of like trying to figure it out, and everyone was really nervous about recording, so everyone wanted notes.
I can
So
remember
Nobody likes
that
to
day.
hear their own voice, right?
No.
It was
Yeah.
bad.
I can remember that day so clearly
Yeah,
because we read off script and
Mm.
you could tell that we were reading off script. And I remember
Yeah.
Trudel was just throwing down the things going, this is not, we can't do it like this.
We can't read.
We can't read. Well, it's, and in my head, I remember thinking then and there, this is never going to work.
No.
Never.
yeah,
It's way too
Yeah.
complicated.
yeah.
But
But
from
you can't
small
speak to the
acorns
But
to great
isn't
oak
that the
trees grow.
key? Isn't that the key though?
Yeah.
We're uncomplicated.
We've just tried to keep it a low barrier. Like none of us knew how to do podcasting. None of us understood the platforms. Like we've had
We
to
still
figure out
don't really
Libsyn.
know, to be
No.
fair.
I'm pretty convinced. I'm pretty convinced that there have been in the last 10 years updates and ways to do podcasting much easier than the way we do it. And I have
Really?
no clue. Yeah, like Libsyn, like we've used Libsyn, the platform. I swear to God, they're always sending me stuff about new this, new that. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's too hard.
Yeah.
We know how to do what we
Yeah.
know how to do, and
Yeah.
we get it done, and people get what we, like people
Until
are
somebody
receiving our
complains.
podcast. Yes.
But also, something's making a weird noise, but we are one take wonders too, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
And
just think we,
Hear people.
Take wonder. That could be a title of a book.
we just
Yeah.
we say this to our guests too. Like we don't stop, we don't edit. What you say is going to go on there.
Yeah.
Try not to be too rude.
Yeah.
Don't say.
Keep the
Like, I mean, if
language down a
someone
little
says
bit.
something they will regret, we would take it off. But
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe we've done that once or twice where someone's come back
Yeah.
and said, actually, I
Yeah.
can't say that
Yeah.
on air. But like 500 episodes for, like
Yes.
and we treat it like I always say this to guests when they're like we're prepping them, is like, think of it like sitting around a coffee table having coffee or a wine with your friends who love to talk about self-publishing and writing, who
Yeah.
love to talk about the same kind of stuff that you do, and it's just a good chat about stuff we all love to talk about. And I think
Yeah, I think I often wonder what people perceive us as, like how do we,
Mhm.
where we're sitting, what we're doing, because we've been the same, we've been uniform right through.
You
Yeah.
do sometimes get the guests when they come on, particularly when it's all four of us on the screen. So we started off recording back. Remember Skype? We recorded by Skype,
Yes.
and then we
and they
moved
do a
to Zoom.
double take, don't they?
And they do, and you can sort of also tell there's a little bit of deer in the headlights look about some people when they come on, because we're aware often that our humor,
But there's so much
tends-
beauty too, right?
well, let's face it,
it's
four
it's
supermodels in the
overwhelming.
morning,
You come
Come
on
on.
and maybe expecting one or two people. Like, this is for people who've didn't
Yeah.
know who we were or anything like that.
Yeah.
Come on, expecting like maybe one or two people, and you get the four of us,
yeah, it's true.
and it is quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
And we do put a lot of effort in, or at least I think we do, to make people feel comfortable
Absolutely.
before we actually hit record. Like
Yeah.
we chat to them, we kind of talk about stuff, we ask them where they are and talk, and we do that on purpose. It's not just because we love to chat, and I mean we do, but like it's we've always done that,
Comfort.
and we
It's
want
like going for a
people.
job interview. You do the
Yeah.
small talk first kind of thing
Yeah,
too
yeah,
sometimes,
yeah. just to calm people down and just get
I
that
mean,
deer out
some
the
people are like
headlights.
all in, but I'm aware sometimes that our humor is sometimes
You do
doesn't
get a blank
always
look
come
back
across.
sometimes, and it's
Do
like
get a little blank look.
That's right.
my
It could be just yeah.
my daughter actually said to me, "How come you guys are still going? What do you reckon your secret is?" And I firmly believe our secret is that we are good friends.
Yeah,
Mm.
100%.
Do you know what the tagline was for our 400th episode? It
No,
was, "Why are we still here?"
really.
And I think we're still here because of it's still the four of us.
Yeah.
So nothing's changed for us, and the business just goes on kind of around us and with us,
Hmm.
and we just enjoy each other so much. So
Yeah, it's
I
true.
think
Do you
that's
reckon
what.
it's because we're all so different?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
I mean, probably Cher and I are most alike, but even so, Cher's way more organized than me. But
Mm.
what I think we bring very, very different
Yes.
views and personalities to this.
Mm,
Yeah.
Mm.
absolutely. And I think that's possibly as representative. So for listeners, when you're listening to a group of people that are approaching from different angles, often you can relate to one or two more so than other people. But I
Yeah.
also think it's good to hear all sides of not even an argument, but all just different opinions about whatever topic. Let's face it, in the world of writing and publishing, you can make controversy out of anything from Oxford comma to,
Yeah.
a
We've sort of steered
trope.
away from too much of that, but I
No,
think the
well,
thing is we've
we
grown.
try.
Just try and avoid the drama, right? Like we
Yes,
don't,
I think
and
it's
I
the
think that's what
drama.
happens is
Yeah.
people get caught up in the, oh my God, this is the end of the world. And we've been
Yeah.
doing this for so long now.
We've
seen
seen
so
many
many,
times when it
oh
was
my
the end of the
God, the world
world.
is, yeah,
Very,
exactly.
yeah.
And you start to realize that actually it's never the end of the world. And actually, if you can just kind of
a
flow
breath.
your way through stuff and keep breathing and just keep doing what you can control and
Yeah.
just keep going, the controversy or the drama sort of tends to move on and whatever stuff happens.
We've also grown up with this podcast as writers. I think that's a
Mm.
very important point. All of us would have just started publishing or very close to when we first started. So for us, this was a learning curve for us, but also gave us exposure to people in the industry who we wanted to talk to and get the information to. So we've grown too. And we all write different genres.
Yeah.
So that was another plus, I think, another tick in the corner of why it's been so effective. But we've all changed and grown with this podcast and our publishing journeys.
And I think because we're a group and we are close, that we've lifted each other up into things, because we all have specific things that we're perhaps slightly better at than each other. But because of that, it's like a mind meld, and we lift each other up to be better at, with Shah with her marketing, and Trudy's so good with the technology and the questions, and and Wendy and I with the perseverance to getting the words down. And that, I think, it's just like this harmonious thing that evolved. We didn't plan it that way. It just evolved, didn't it?
Do
Having
you know
said
the
that,
other thing I just want to say is,
No.
is we're also quite accepting of each other. Like I think it would be really easy to kind of go, well, you're different to me, you're wrong, or something like, like people get very
You see that a
stuck.
lot these days, I think,
Yeah.
too, more so than maybe 10 years ago. It's sort of
Yeah.
like you're either with me or you're against me. There's not a
Yes.
lot of nuance in the world at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And we are, I think, four very different people
Yeah.
who quite often will think quite differently, but we all kind of know and love that about each other. And I don't think any of us would be like, yeah, I think we just go with the flow. Like we know that not everyone thinks the same, and we're not gonna,
yeah.
we,
I think
we,
I think we're very different insofar, and we've disagreed with each other. I mean, that's
Oh,
never a given.
absolutely.
We have always disagreed with each other, but I think we've gone from friendship almost into a sisterhood insofar as we understand that we're different. We understand that some things annoy each other a bit. I mean, I'm sure there's little things that I do, but only one or two that annoy you. But but what I'm saying is we've always ridden through that, and I think now we've come out the other side as really good tight friends.
Yeah.
We've gone through all these things with our families and our children and our writing, and I think we've come out the other side. Well, that's my take on it. I mean, if I have a problem, you three are the first three I will ask to help me, in life and in my publishing career.
Yes.
I mean, and I've probably published 70 plus books now, but still, if something happens, I'll go, oh, I'm just going to ask the girls. I say to my daughter, who's my assistant, I'm just going to ask the girls what they think. Or she'll say to me, just ask the girls.
Yeah.
Well, we were in a cafe, weren't we, the other day?
Yeah.
And, well, three of us. We were sorry, Trudy,
Yeah.
and we were
sent
brainstorming
Trudy
your
a photo though, to be fair, because
we did send Trudy,
yeah.
but we were
To annoy her,
brainstorming your
though.
book,
Yeah.
Wendy, because
Eh?
we were brainstorming your book.
Yes, we were. And even like I say, so many books on, there are sometimes I'm just like, I just can't get this. I need help.
Yeah.
And I think, I think there's a real healthy amount of respect for each other, and that's why this has kept going for as long as it has.
Yeah,
Is where
I
I'm
think
going.
so.
But you don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to agree on politics or religion or where to put your Oxford comma.
Yeah. Respect.
Yeah.
But
We've all considered stopping too, right? Like
absolutely.
This has not been a gung-ho, we're always there for the
No.
podcast kind of situation. Like sometimes I think that's one of the benefits of there being four of us. I think if each of us individually had tried to do a podcast by ourselves, it would have stopped. Like you have to take your hats off to Joanna Penn for continuing on by herself as long as she does, because
absolutely,
this is hard work. We are taking time away from our writing to ask people on the show, to email with them, to make sure, to write up questions, to think about the stuff, to do the recording, to post the recording, to interact in the Facebook group. There is all the stuff. And for years we used to do that just for love, and now we have things like
the
Patreon
majority
group.
of the time, certainly for 8 years of it, we did it. I think that's probably one of the things that we've gone back and forwards on was the monetization of this, right? From the fairly early days. And I had a number of friends that were completely outside of writing or publishing were like, why aren't you making money out of this? They couldn't understand why we were putting all this time. So we did some in-person workshops, which we really enjoyed doing. We wrote a book. We were, but we never got into the sponsorship. We never got into the big, the big courses and so frankly,
we did try, to be fair. We have started
we
courses.
started, but I mean, we never published
more of us.
anything,
Because
or,
life
because
just gets in the way.
it becomes it's an interesting thing. It's a little bit like, in a way, when you go down that track, it becomes another business. And I feel like at the crunch point, none of us had the bandwidth to take on another business, which it is. If you're going to do that, you've got to do it right. And
It's not just being a lot
not
younger
just
when we started, it might have made a big difference.
maybe, yeah.
But it's not even just the bandwidth to take on the business. It was also, if we had, monetized and got serious and, created all the structures we would have needed around the podcast, it would have taken time away from the writing.
Oh, huge
and for
amounts.
me, the writing has always been the first thing, and the podcast has always been the fun thing to chat to people and keep interested. I'm always like the input learner side of things. I like talking to people and finding out what they're doing and how they're doing, and I find it intriguing. But if that had become, I feel like it would have stopped us writing,
Oh, definitely. And I think you can see that with, a number of authors are obviously in the education space, like a lot. And I think it, for the ones that I follow closely, I don't know them personally, but just sort of that as a follower and as a fan, you can see that there is a struggle between what they're serving to the author community and what they're actually serving to their own writing career. It's a real tricky balance, and
I think also, each of us have had our struggles. We've never shown that, but we've each of us have had our struggles whether family or health or whatever.
Oh.
But because there's four of us, it's made it easier.
Who was the one you were forgetting about?
Yeah, I was going to
Which
say.
one?
Might have been you,
Was it
actually,
me?
Trudy.
It was me.
Who fell off?
No, but seriously, I was actually counting myself out. No, but what I mean is we were always able to pick up the slack for each other.
Yeah, and we've all had times when it was we just couldn't make it. Like, we're not on every time. And yeah, definitely. Like I say,
but we've had some amazing
balance.
guests, right? Oh my gosh, so many.
Okay, so Trudy, did you have some questions to ask us about guests?
Well, we've
Now
been
we've
jumping
talked about
around so
ourselves.
far. I feel like we haven't gone in depth into all the different things we wanted to talk about. But
well, actually, if somebody hasn't heard our origin story of how we met, it was really through a writing group, like as in Romance Writers of New Zealand, and I picked up Trudy at a science fiction writers workshop with.
Do you remember the day we met? The day we decided on this?
Yes.
It was at Waipuna at a conference. I walked up the stairs and with Cher, and you two, I think just you, Shah. Trudels wasn't there.
I don't think I was there.
And we got together and started talking.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. And then we met at your house. And then
we met at the first meeting we had. I remember I cried.
You did.
My dad had just died.
Yeah, it was a tough time.
Young baby. I think she must have been about 6 weeks old, or not even maybe that.
Yeah, we got you at a vulnerable time, Trudy, and
I remember walking around with your baby while we got together at Cheryl's house, jugging up her and down while we were chatting about what we were going to do and how we were going to make it work.
Yeah.
That's right. It was tough. Like, man, I don't know how you did that, Trudy.
We were also living in the same city then.
Yeah,
that's true. And we've all
made life easier for us as a group. Yeah.
Definitely. I think that really helped the location in those early stages.
Catching up like every week or a couple of weeks.
I definitely miss that actually.
Me too.
We catch
I miss you guys. They all left me, everybody. I'd just like to say that I'm still in the same place and everybody's left me.
Further north.
Very much triggering my fear of my wound, my abandonment wound, just saying. But
move to Cambridge, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But also, hasn't tech improved? Do you remember Skype used to
fade in and out,
buffering,
and the sound quality used to be really bad. That was the one comment we always used to get. People would be like, "Oh, the sound is really bad. Like, what are you doing?" And now I feel like Zoom has just whatever. It's probably AI,
and plus we're also audio editing as well.
Yeah, but it's still, I think,
when I say audio editing, we run it through a very program. I still have no idea.
Paste anything.
So we all met and we decided to start, and we decided to kick off. And I mean, I think we just decided and then to launch.
This is the question. Why?
I don't know why.
Shah said, "Let's get together."
No, you know what happened? We were a critique group for a little bit, weren't we?
Yeah,
and then and then one of us, and I have a feeling it might have been me, said we should something about a podcast because you talked about it, and then we'd said, well,
we were listening to a lot, and this was in the days of, and this will take anybody that's still that's like us, have been around for a while. You remember the Rocking Self-Publishing podcast, which was awesome with Simon Whistler, awesome podcast. Yeah. There was the Smarter Artist guys. Well, they ended up being Smarter Artist guys, Johnny Truant, Sean Platt, and Dave, and I can't think of his surname, but and they did the Self-Publishing show. Then Mark Dawson came and did his podcast, and there was Joanna.
He was after us, though.
He was after us.
Yeah, Joanna was
so we're one of the OGs, just saying. But apart from Joanna, there weren't a lot of female voices, and for me, I got slightly, riled up a bit. Well, not riled. That's not true.
No, you did.
Yeah, okay.
It was not just female voices,
but it was female,
romance.
But it was romance.
I feel like, because romance
I felt like romance had been been paid. It was almost like it was still a little bit like, he,
not
writing naughty books. There's a little bit of that. Not that I ever got that from Rocking Self-Publishing because he was always very respectful. But it just. I think it was good to hear romance writers. I think it was good to hear women, that were having growing families and sort of dealing with all of that sort of side of things as well, because you don't really hear that from often male commentators on any industry that talk about the juggle of family responsibilities in life along with their careers. That sort of doesn't seem to be part of their conversation as much. And, it was also outside of the US. There are challenges being outside of particularly the US, where your main readership is for authors, just in terms of accessibility to conferences and to reader events, particularly now. So yeah, it was a combination of those things.
Yeah. I think also being in the New Zealand, we haven't really understood how popular we were until we left New Zealand.
Isn't that the case though? We
went to, where did we go?
We went
Romance
to
Author Mastermind, and there was a lot of
2019.
Yeah, and
we
we
not
had
gone other places before that? I feel
Did we
like
go to RWA first? Romance Writers of America
Maybe.
first?
Yes, we
yeah, but I
did.
don't think we were known.
But
But
we
we
didn't
weren't
go.
known.
No, that was when we were both really, really sick. Cheryl and
That's
I
right.
had pneumonia.
Tell the stories.
Tell the story about pneumonia.
Cheryl and I had always wanted to go to Romance Writers of America. And we decided, because Cheryl and I have conferenced together for 21 years.
We share a room.
We're like wives.
It's actually
not
funny
bed,
because they are like a married couple. It's honestly, they get shitty with each other.
There's a lot of arguing.
Like there's no tomorrow.
We do not. Cheryl's the tidy one and I'm the messy one, just FYI. Anyway, we're moving on. We flew in and we were really tired. And when we got there, we both got very sick.
And this was in
what year?
Orlando. This was
Orlando.
in 2018. I don't know, actually. When was it? 15? I don't know. Years ago. 17?
Anyway, Wendy was so sick, we had to find her a doctor.
Yes.
Get her drugs.
Yeah.
Get her some antibiotics. Like
Wendy always gets sick at conferences.
Yeah,
like almost every single conference she goes to, she's sick. But anyway, that's another story.
So anyway, we bumped into Mark Dawson and we asked him if he'd like to be interviewed, and he said yes. So we actually had a nap and nearly missed the appointment time.
He messaged us and said,
which is where he was.
Are you coming to the cabana?
And you guys were late because you were like
he was
drugged up in sleep.
He was the absolute consummate professional. He took the microphone, my phone, out of my hand, which had a Mickey Mouse cover on it, and he held on to it and he did the interview for himself. He was a trooper, man. I used to have to keep getting up and coughing. Cheryl managed to stay in there with her raspy voice. He was an absolute pro. And a couple of years later, I saw him again, and he said to me he really enjoyed that interview. It was brilliant.
And you guys were
sure he wasn't just being polite.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
And you had other authors, didn't you? In your room or
Painter?
Yeah, we met Christian Pater and Roxanne St. Clair. We went and interviewed them. Same thing.
Yes.
Same thing. We were sick as dogs, and they just basically took over and did it. That's why we had photos of them, and it was great. But I just think that leads to the fact of who we are. We're pretty laid-back Kiwis and don't make a big issue out of things. We just sort of, get on with it.
Yeah. And because I think you're traveling so far and you're in this arena with these circumstances that you never imagined yourself to be. You'd hoped for, but you couldn't actually ever picture yourself there. And everything was just sort of like not bombarding you, but it was just so surreal that you needed to make the most of every single moment. And so we did. And we met some fantastic people. That's where we met our friend Jamie. And she got us talking to all kinds of people that we never would have met up with.
Yeah, shout out to Jamie Albright, who also has her own podcast now with Sarah Rosette.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wish I'd known.
Yeah, I think that was a real reminder for me. And the other interview that really sticks with me is the Bella Andre one.
Yes.
And that
Tell
was
the story about
that
that one.
That was a New Zealand conference.
It was.
Yeah, it was. We did that in our bedroom.
She was scary, actually, because she'd looked
so
us
nice.
up.
Yeah.
She'd freaking looked us up and was
not just looked up the Spa Girls. She had gone into everybody's author profile.
No one had done that before, or at least no one mentioned that they'd done that.
The nicest person you will ever meet.
Yeah.
She was so nice.
Most down-to-earth, humble Like, yeah.
Absolute delight.
But like what she was just saying, like we all went out to lunch, and I've never met anyone before or since who did what she did, where she made sure it was a group, but there's heaps of us. How many would there have
Oh,
been?
At least 12.
Yeah, 15, let's say 15 people.
Yeah.
She made sure she talked to every single person there. She was aware that we were all kind of a bit in awe of her because she was already like
And then she
a
paid for lunch.
superstar. Oh, did she? I don't even
Yeah.
remember that. But
Yeah.
she talked to every single person there. And that's 15 separate people.
Yeah.
Asked them what kind of
Absolute
book they were
pro.
writing, what they
Yeah.
were doing, how they were going, what was happening. I was so impressed by her. I'm getting chills just remembering.
Again, superstars, right?
Mhm.
You know, and Huang was the same. She was kind, generous, open, and she's an absolute super. Lucy's the same. Nalini's the same. You know, these people that are absolute superstars that we've interviewed have all been incredibly humble and giving and with their knowledge.
I have to say, and just in my observation, and I'm not talking about the podcast now necessarily, but I often find that those that are absolutely at the top of the game are absolutely like that. And sometimes the ones with the attitude aren't at the top of their game, you know? So it's
everyone who's come on has been generous and kind and giving with their information.
they
Who's
have.
Who have been some of your favorites?
Oh, we can't have favorites, can we?
Not favorites.
I want to talk about some of the funny ones.
Memorable.
I've talked about our favorites till the cows come home. I think.
Well, can I
think
just
they're all
say
favourites.
though, it always quietly amuses me that when we have somebody on who's often really high energy, because we record in our morning, so often it's like 8:30 or in the morning, and we're better in the morning than we are in the evening. We'll cover that off maybe a bit later on in the podcast. But it always amuses me. We'll have somebody on that's like super high energy, like when we had Anne-Marie Meyer on, and she was just like blah blah blah, blah, yeah, go. And at the end of the podcast, A, we're exhausted, and B, we're like, oh my gosh, I've got to do all these things, and it's the same thing every time. We're like, and we've written a page of notes.
Yeah.
That's how we know you can't do everything.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so some episodes that when we kind of talked about them before that. So I'm going to start us off. We interviewed Joanna Penn, and it was quite early on. I was still back up in Auckland, and
before we met
7
her.
or 8 years ago, it was like early on.
It was just an interview with someone who was in the industry, and I was in total awe. I was just starstruck. Like she was, I don't know, I could barely get a word out. And I remember stumbling over my words.
Very unusual for Trudy.
I was kind of losing track, like, because normally I write notes and I'm kind of onto it and I know the next question I'm going to ask and I know where I want it to go kind of thing. And I just remember stumbling, and there was silences because I was trying to remember what I was
We
going to
were
ask
trying to
next.
leap in and save you.
Yeah, it was just the worst. That's I still remember it because I just would cringe about how bad it was. And she was like this, but she must have thought I was nuts, and I was like trying to impress her, and I just
she probably
did the
did.
opposite.
And then she met us and it was confirmed, right?
Yeah, right.
So,
So, it's all go.
No, it wasn't that bad, mate. We talked over and saved you. Don't worry.
in all the episodes, we only had one where we had a guest on and it was a little hard. You know, she was just naturally not a talker.
Like getting blood from a stone, like just not a talker. And it was really funny because she was the one that kind of approached us.
Yeah.
She was really eager. And then she came on and she just was doing one simple answers.
And we were texting each other and going, I don't know how we're going to get through this.
What's happening?
Yeah.
And
I'm not even sure people wouldn't have known necessarily that we were struggling quite so much, but it was just a difficult interview. Like normally people come along prepared, and
particularly
they know what
those that have pitched to come on.
Yeah,
you know,
and that was the only one in all the 10 years.
1 out of 500,
which is really good. I'd also like to point out that I was the one that set that interview up, and I didn't actually come on the podcast.
So we blame you.
So
we've not actually forgiven her for that.
Yeah, I got a bit of flack for that afterwards.
What else have we done that's crazy? We've done a few things, surely.
I mean, there's times that we've lost it completely.
We've had a lot of animal situations, I think, you know.
We've had a lot of animal, like real life animals, not just shapeshifter animals.
Coming in, couriers at the door. We've had a lot of family members just opening the door and going, hi. my mum was
walking
living me
past.
for my mum was living me for a little while, and she's 86, nearly 87, and doesn't have the sharpest memory like she used to. And I came down the stairs and I said to her, "Now, Mum, I'm podcasting, so don't come upstairs." So
What's
what did
that,
she
dear?
do?
Come
Yeah.
upstairs? Okay.
So the next thing you know, I'm interviewing because I was up at the upstairs, and there she just appears behind me, wanting something. And what do? You got to laugh and just carry on. But again, we didn't cut it. We just carried on,
Carried on,
acted
yeah.
like nothing had
I've
happened.
had the
When I
cats
was
bring
on,
in a bird sometime, like a live bird flapping around, and
yeah,
so I have an office in my garage, so I'm actually in my garage,
yeah.
and yeah, and had a bird flapping around, and then my youngest son would come in and to try and catch the bird, so that was all going on, so it was
I
good.
used to have an office inside the house and we'd be podcasting, and everyone knows Thursday mornings podcast, right? Like you tell them till the
Oh,
cows
we've
come
had
home.
your daughter sitting
And
on
then
your
they,
knee,
yeah,
haven't
like
we,
they'd
a
come
bit?
in, they'd be like,
Yeah.
just wanted to check where this
Yeah.
thing, no,
My
just shut
favourite
the
with
door.
you was when you went down to your where the snow, and your kid's daughter was walking back and forth across the window behind you because she wanted to
Outside the
go.
window.
I had my granddaughter sitting on my knee one time when we
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
Well, these are the days before we recorded the video. So,
yeah, yeah,
since it was, we know exactly when we went to video, which was
Yeah.
5 years ago when the COVID times hit, and that was we were literally losing our minds, and so
yeah. And we
yeah,
always said
Something
we
that
had
we never
faces for
thought we would.
radio.
Yeah. What was
Yeah.
that, Cher?
We did something we thought we'd never do, and that's show ourselves.
Yeah.
It was
And
And then
all
we
our
started
glory.
off with just those crazy daily videos, didn't we?
Yes.
Mhm.
Like the 10 minutes or so.
And
During
that broke
COVID.
us,
videos.
really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because once we'd done that and showed how ridiculous we were, nothing mattered.
We did that
No.
during COVID
Exactly.
for people, didn't we? For
Yes, we
ourselves as
did.
well, because we were going a bit crazy and worried about each
To be
other.
to be honest, I feel like I got more out of that than anyone else.
Me
I feel
too.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
us meeting up every morning,
Oh,
just kind of chatting, it was kind of a bit of a lifeline.
Mm. I don't know where those
it
videos are. I hope they're not
it
out
really
there in the
was.
world.
It was. They're all on YouTube. They are all on there. They've got their own
If you want to
playlists.
laugh.
Not that anybody ever looks at them, but if you want to see
If you want to laugh.
four women basically
Sad
losing their
and
minds in real
anxious
time,
Oh, yeah, I know.
it would be so excited about going to the supermarket and
Yeah.
it would be, it's in many ways it was sort of that 5 year point kind of is halfway through our
Yeah.
podcasting, it's sort of like the before
Oh,
and the after.
wow.
It's a
I
weird
had
sort of
never thought
thing.
about it
And in
like
many
that.
ways that first 5 years seemed to go slower than the last
Yeah,
5 years.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Mm.
I remember the time that we interviewed Sky Warren, who was talking to us about how she'd had this fatigue thing where she couldn't actually work more than 4 hours in a day, and how she'd had to, prioritize all the stuff. And we kind of like leapt it on, like completely just without giving her any warning, said, "Oh, by the way, we'd love to do 2 episodes with you. Can you do that with us right now?" And she's awesome. She's such a trooper. She said, "Okay, sure. Fine, I'll do that." Maybe because she felt like she had to, I don't know. But she did look exhausted at the end of that second episode, I have to say. But like she just, So
It was
stuff
a
like that.
two-parter, wasn't it? I think it was.
Yeah. I think we didn't make her do 2 hours. We did like
No,
a 40-minute
it
and a
wasn't.
40-minute or
We
something.
weren't
But
that mean, but yeah.
no, but it was
I
still
think
a
one of
lot.
our biggest draw cards problems is our time zone. Like I've had a few people I've given the wrong time zones because I'm the worst at that. And they haven't come back
hard.
on. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, getting the time zone right when you're halfway
Es-
across the world.
Especially
daylight
during
saving.
daylight savings.
Yes.
That is the nightmare time. Like October and March or April. Those are the 2 times of year where it's like I'm like triple checking my times to make sure that I haven't given them the wrong time.
Especially
Yeah.
if you've organized it like a month or so before, because you're not thinking about
You
daylight
check at the
saving, you
time.
change
You're
it.
not.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
then all
try
of a
now to
sudden-
remember to check the date that they're coming on.
Yeah.
Rather than just that day that you're doing
Yes.
it. But
I
it's,
think
sometimes you just
what I
don't.
love most about this is when someone comes up to me. Like I was in Edinburgh at a book signing, and an author came up to me, and she's doing very well. And she said to me, "I just want to thank you guys, you and the rest of the Spa Girls, because you started me on this, and I learned a lot from you
Oh.
guys." And I was just like,
Yeah,
those are the moments, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are the moments.
Absolutely.
And you
It's
think,
such an honor to be part of
Yeah.
somebody's journey in
Yeah.
a small way,
You don't
Yeah.
need the kudos, but it is
No.
very satisfying
Yeah.
to think that you've helped someone.
Yeah,
And giving
Mm.
back, I think, was important to me because I
very.
got so much from so many people in the early
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
And so being able to give back was huge.
Mm.
absolutely. And I think, making it accessible again, I said about, us being not in the States, but I think part of this was also making it accessible to people in other countries that maybe didn't have a multitude of conferences on their doorsteps to
Mm.
access easily,
But
so
also accessible in that we've always sort of talked like we're not the superstars of Wendy kind of is, but the superstars of
mhm.
self-publishing. We're the middle of the road mainstream kind of like we're still trying to figure some stuff out, and we're not
Yeah,
perfect at anything, and we're making some money, but not the top level money that these people are making, and we're trying to keep it real, and
trying
we've
to
all
keep it
got different,
relatable.
yeah, and relatable, and we're not kind of too high up there that no one can kind of understand how they could possibly get there. Like I
Mm.
think of someone like if who have we talked about today? Like if Bella Andre had started a podcast, she's awesome and I love her and she's the most amazing person, but I'm not sure she'd be that relatable and to someone who was just starting out because
Yeah,
she the things that she's done and the time that she started was a completely different time. And the things that she does as a self-publisher are not what a new self-publisher would do now. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's
and I
Well,
not.
it's
think
always changing.
it is
Yeah.
always changing, and I think we try really hard um to remember what it's like to start the overwhelm and the learning the new things and all of that. I think we try really hard. Now, obviously, we can't because we're 10 years down the track of this. So it is kind of, we just have to try and put ourselves in that beginner space because we've always said that this podcast was for people that were new to self-publishing. Now, obviously, our fan base is people that have been with us for a long, long, long time. But we try really hard to, when we're asking questions, we'll often prepare guests to say, if I ask a question that seems really basic, I might know the answer, but if I'm asking you what the initials KU mean, it's just because we want to try and not assume that the audience
Yeah.
knows.
Well, we had an
Mm,
avatar, didn't we?
mm,
We do.
Jasmine, and that was from the
Jasmine,
start.
our listener.
yeah.
And that's who
And
we
we
aimed
often
at.
say, what would Jasmine want to
What would
hear?
Jasmine say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what would
Would
Jasmine
Jasmine
think?
want to know this?
Would
Yeah,
Jasmine understand this, if we
yeah.
don't put it,
Yeah. Is
couch it
this
in the right
useful to
form?
Jasmine, or is it just somebody that we want to talk to?
I mean, often it is
Which
just
happens.
someone we want to talk to be fair, but we'll
Yeah,
often try
it's
and make
always.
sure that it's accessible as well
Yeah.
to Jasmine.
Yeah, sorry, Jasmine, but
Yeah. We have turned down people that we've kind of sat there and considered.
we've turned down a lot of
A
people,
lot of
and
Yeah.
people.
Some people
yeah.
like approach us, like we were talking about this, like I'll get approaches from people who are not even in our industry.
Mm,
Like I had someone a couple of days ago saying, "Oh, I've got this great guest. They're a musician and they've been, doing all this amazing stuff in the music scene." And it's like, did you do any research on the podcast that you
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
approaching? But even just or people approaching us when and I get that they're enthusiastic and they're just trying to get themselves out there and they've maybe been told, but like someone who's just literally published their first book
Yes.
and what we've always tried to do is get someone with a bit more experience, someone, and I go back and tell these people, usually they're just really gung-ho, enthusiastic people, and congratulating them on their publish of the first book, but it's not someone that we usually would get on the show. We need
mm.
someone with a bit more experience and we try and niche down the episodes, like we try and make it about one particular thing usually,
That's
and
right. We've
not
had crime,
everything.
we've had all sorts of stuff,
Mm.
haven't we? We had the
Yeah,
nuclear
sometimes it's
physicist. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we've kind of gone all over the show sometimes. Like, I still remember, oh God, is it Natasha, who was
Renzo.
the one who knew all about the weapons of mass
Yes,
destruction and
Natasha Bedgemer.
Yeah. And
yeah,
she had a
yeah,
Doberman as a dog.
yeah,
Mm.
and she was awesome. I loved that episode
Yeah,
about
super
just
cool.
like talking about how the movies often get it wrong, and there's always,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like with chemical
We've had so
warfare and
many like that.
yeah.
I'll be honest, everyone, I think we've enjoyed everyone, to be
We
fair.
really
We
have,
have,
Mm,
genuinely have. And sometimes, it is, um, I mean, this sounds really, cliche, but we really have been honored by the people that we've had on the podcast,
Yeah.
without exception.
It's
Yep.
not an easy thing to go on a podcast, to be fair. I have since been on a couple of other people's podcasts, and I struggle actually going on other people's podcasts because I'm like, well, for a start, I want to take over and control it and tell them all what to do.
Can't imagine that, Trudy.
Oh, do
So
you?
unusual.
I know, right? Like it's a shock to everyone involved. But just yeah, and then thinking of the right thing to say at the, like it just feels, yeah. Anyway,
I actually enjoy it. I feel quite liberated when I go on somebody
do
else's
you?
show. I
Yeah.
just feel like
I don't mind it.
just
Okay, well,
be
that's
me.
just an example
I
of
don't
how
I
we're all
don't have to
different.
try and get my bit in without between other people
Because they
speaking.
just
So.
are making you, yeah. Sorry, Cher.
Yeah.
We're all so enthusiastic about speaking. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple of questions that we were going to talk about quickly. So we've talked about some of our challenges that we've overcome as podcasters and authors. Is there anything else we want to mention? Anything else that we've any big challenges we've had along the way?
Plenty
feel
of
like-
challenges along the way. I think
Yeah.
we've split to pen names. We've done all sorts of things. We've changed genres. We've
Pivoted, yeah.
pivoted. But I
And I
think
think,
we've
and
tried.
also I think too, the discussions around whether, particularly things like controversies, like we discussed that kind of thing, are we going to cover it? Are we not? How to, we try really hard to make the podcast evergreen as well. So you could listen to a topic in 5 years' time. So, things like that are really specific, say around advertising can date. So we try
Yes.
really hard not to. But also, I mean, it's not just the latest sort of AI pros, cons, whatever. There's been a whole lot on the way through, whether it's KU, versus wide. It's been, all different promotion
Yeah.
techniques that, at one point were allowed and other points Amazon brought down the ban, there's all
new
kinds of
algorithms
things.
changes,
Yeah.
Amazon doing
And
sort
it's
of
like
crazy
how
things that we
that's
couldn't
always been a
understand.
bit of we've always had discussions around that.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever taken sides though.
No,
to be
that's what I mean though,
fair.
but we've always discussed it before
Mm.
off the show,
Go
behind the
share.
scenes.
Get in.
We were once accused of being pro KU as opposed to going wide, which was never ever the case and was kind of a bit offensive really because we have dabbled in everything. And in fact,
Yeah.
Amy and I both have two pen names each. One is in KU and one is wide. But
I think at the time that happened, most of us were in KU and we've since gone wide.
I
feel
wasn't.
like,
I wasn't.
oh, weren't
I
you?
wasn't.
Oh, okay.
No,
All right.
no.
Take it back.
So
I think it can be hard. I mean, a couple of times I've responded when I've seen something that's been blatantly posted about us that's incorrect, in a nice way. But generally, I think I shouldn't say this out loud, but we've really haven't had any negative publicity.
I think we do try to avoid the drama and the
Yeah.
controversy, and maybe we'd get critique for that, for not
I'm
taking
sure
a side or putting a
that
stick in the sand. But
Yeah.
I just feel like to make us accessible and make it, I think what we've always tried to do is bring on guests and let that guest speak their opinion and speak the way they do things and let them talk. And sometimes it isn't always our, like there've been times when we've gotten a guest off and I've been like, oh, I'm not sure I would do it that way.
No.
But that doesn't matter. And that was never the point. It was like, that's how that person was doing it. And that's awesome because it shows that there are so many different journeys and so many different ways up the mountain, which has definitely been something that we have always wanted to show.
Yeah.
Even just by the four of us being so different, but even just our guests being so different. And we've had people on who say, oh, I've never had a newsletter in my life and I'm still really successful. And someone else who said, I wouldn't be as successful if I didn't have a newsletter, and you have to have a newsletter. And someone who says, oh, I'm in KU and it's the only way to make money. And someone else who says, oh, no, I'm wide and I love it and I earn just as much money as if I was in KU. Like just of every opinion. And it just goes to show there is no one way to do it and it's okay.
No one's right and no one's wrong, but they are right for themselves, and possibly wrong for somebody else. So I think you have to take all that on board and just try stuff. And that's what we have done. We really, really have. We've run the gamut of all the things that we've listened to, and we haven't tried every single thing, if I'm completely honest, but maybe one of us might have tried that thing that somebody else didn't. So
Yeah.
I think
Cher, you're always so good at trying new stuff. Like you're always the one who leaps in and gives things a go and
On
up
our
until
behalf.
on our behalf.
although, I could do things better, and I think
We could all
that's
do
the
things
key for
better.
the podcast is keep learning and trying to do things better, the things that you are doing, but just try and do
Yeah.
them a bit better. Or,
Mhm.
And I think the
Evolving.
lesson is that there are so many different people doing things different ways, but you
yeah.
can't do everything, and
No.
you have to pick. You have to find the way that works for you, keep it niche down and focused, and not trying to do. Because that's another thing that we've all done. We get off, like I think Shah said it earlier. We'll do an episode, we'll get off afterwards and go, oh my God, I've got to be doing BookBub ads or
Yeah.
Amazon ads
Yeah.
or I've got to get myself onto that platform or this platform or I've got to do this other thing. Every single episode there's something, and we just can't do it all, and we just have to let it go
No,
and
but we
kind of
have that beautiful brief 30-minute span where we think I could do that.
I could do that. This guest
That
is
doesn't
making it
sound so
sound so wonderful.
hard.
Yeah, yeah. So how has the podcast changed your writing careers? That's the question. Go, Wendy.
Absolute silence.
Wendy.
I
You go, Cher.
Well, I was just recalling an episode that we did with Zoe York, which was about treating your writing as a business, and that was pivotal for me because especially when you give up your day job and this becomes not just your day job but your career, then you have to treat it as a business, and that really resonated with me. And I think that's when I started to become more successful financially.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would probably be along those lines insofar as I have been lucky enough to always do fairly well. I came out originally when I published my first book, it did well and it sort of kept going. But but it wasn't until I actually, like Cher said, started to treat it like a business, get people to help me. I had Shah and I had, ads and things. And it wasn't until I took those next steps and believed in myself that I could do it. But I think, I'm
But
not
do you
sure.
think that you knew about the next steps and you
No,
knew
but
about the mind
I
step
came
because
into
of the podcast?
I came into podcasting unaware of everything. I knew nothing at all. And I'm not a reader or someone who will spend hours scrolling through information like Shah and Trudels. So for me, the podcast was my education every week, and having these guys help me and say to me, they'll, hey, Wendy, you should try this, or listening to someone and thinking in a light bulb moment and going, I'm going to give that a go. So I think that has been really helpful for me and helped me to grow. And it's not till like Cher and I did a talk on the weekend, and I was nervous even this young on. And as we started to talk, I was like, actually, no point of being nervous. We actually know a lot.
I do know this stuff. I do.
I do know this stuff,
I
actually.
can answer that question.
Yeah. So I think it's when you start to talk about it, you realize what you know. And it's definitely, I can now, if something's going wrong, I can now pull from so many different knowledge that is in my head, knowledge base, that I can actually fix things. Which before I'm not a novice anymore. I mean, I think you feel like you're always a novice, to be fair, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Well, there's always stuff to learn,
yeah.
but you do have to take a step back perhaps and think of everything that you have learned and the path that you've been on and getting from A to B, which I guess is what this podcast is about really, is is the journey. And
Yeah.
and really you can't always focus on the bad parts of a journey, otherwise it really isn't worthwhile.
Yeah.
It has to
I
mean
mean,
something. You have to get something out of it, whether it's not perhaps it's not financial, perhaps it's just the fact that you had to get that one book up there or get a couple of books up there, whatever, just to say that you published a book. It's what matters to you.
I think another thing for me, like, I was someone who poo-pooed a lot of things, like Clifton Strengths was one of those. And then we went to conference last year and Becca Symes was there and talking about them. And as she was talking about them, the penny was starting to drop. And I was like, damn, this is making sense. I hate that, and then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I get Trudy now, and I get Shah now. I understand where they're coming from, and this is helping me to understand them. So I think my fault is that I close off a lot when there's too much information. I'm like, I don't want that, don't want. But in actual fact, you have to listen and learn.
What about you, Shah?
I think the irony is, Wendy, your ability to close off is also your superpower, because you can just get those words done no matter what chaos is going on in life, kind of thing. And so, isn't that often the case for us, that that sometimes our faults can also be our biggest protection as well? For me, it would be also the Becca Syme thing. For so long, I struggled. I love the business side of it. I've helped authors with the business side of it. I'm really, really confident on that side of things, but for me, it was a personal, absolute monkey on my back about the lack of self-belief that I could write and publish and finish. So it was very much a personal journey, more so than a technical journey. I think unlocking that has been a combination of things. The understanding my strengths, and for so long, my bookshelves were filled with self-help books on how to fix myself, stop overthinking, that kind of thing. And then once we did Trudy and I did the course and enjoyed it, Becca Syme's Strengths for Writers, it was like, it just answered so many questions, and I stopped feeling like such that I was so broken, and how my brain worked. People with these types of strengths, this is just how they process things. And that was that let go of a huge amount of guilt for me, or sort of self-flagellation, I guess. And on a, slightly lighter note was, we got to know Sadie King, who's a New Zealand writer, but she was doing really well in short romance, and the short romance category, and it still loves. And it's sort of, the penny really dropped for me that I could get over this massive block about being able to finish something and write something good. I mean, I'd written, but I just never, I'd publish something, I'd take it down because I'd just be filled with such self-doubt. And that sort of, I was like, okay, that's something really achievable I can do, whether it's 15,000 words or 20,000 words, which is, to hit those short reads categories in Amazon. And for me, that combination of things, and also life circumstances, all the things, but that was a real turning point for me. And, now I'm able to write fairly easily, and I treated it more as an experiment, and once I'd taken that pressure off myself, that unlocked for me. So it was, trying a different workout.
What about you, Trudel?
For me, it's been a lot of different things. I mean, all of the things that you guys have talked about, Becca Syme and stuff, but it's also just the people we've met. Like, you talk about meeting Sadie King, or now you often will have lunch with her and a few other writers.
Well, now I stalk her, so sorry about that, Sadie, but
she's stuck with you, and other, like, I've met other authors through being a Spargo. You kind of get a bit more. People are, well, if they don't come up to you, maybe that it's easier to start a conversation with them, and you start meeting people. I feel like I've met a lot more people than I would have otherwise if I hadn't been doing the podcast. That's been a massive bonus for us, getting to interview people. I love that. And the things that it has changed my writing career, I feel like, I mean, in some ways it kind of overwhelms me, like too much information and lots of different things happening. But I think definitely it has allowed me to do things that I wouldn't have otherwise done, if I wasn't part of the podcast. And like getting to talk at conferences and all those kinds of things. The ones that have affected me in terms of my writing, we had, I don't know, for me, it's been a lot of the mindset ones, actually, if I'm honest. Like Heather Hildenbrand, Renee Rose, we had Amira Alvarez on, and I've since done courses with all three of those people, and just kind of the same as Shah in terms of my mindset around, my worthiness, and that I was always kind of a little bit afraid that I wasn't worthy and my books weren't good enough. And now I'm kind of like, actually, I'm great. And I was at this Ages of Pages on a couple of weekends ago with Share, which is a book fair that's kind of there's not that many other places around New Zealand. So we had people coming down from Auckland to go to it. I talked to someone from Tauranga, there's people from Auckland, people from the Waikato where we live, but also I feel like there might have been even some from Wellington who come up, because there's no other book fairs of it, and it was like 90 different authors selling all these different books, and the quality of the books was so much higher than it had been in previous years, and the visitor numbers were massive. Like we were busy right from the very beginning, and I stood in front of my stall and I talked about my books, and I was promoting them, and I was telling people how awesome they were, and telling them all the different, the plot lines and how awesome this character was and what this character did and why they should buy the book. And I don't think I would have been able to do that like 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago, maybe. Like it's been a learning curve, and I have done that through the people we've met on the podcast and also through you guys. But yeah, just gaining that confidence to be able to get out there and kind of sell my books is massive.
Really good.
Anyway, I feel like we've probably talked for
have.
longer than an hour
We
now.
have.
Yeah, we probably
Not
have.
quite, but yeah, we're getting
Yeah.
there.
So is there any other things? So we have kind of like a question about your vision for the future of the podcast, or the vision for the future. I don't know if we've got anything. We're just taking it one day at a time right
I think
now,
that's
aren't
true.
we?
I think we've, I just want to emphasize, this does take a huge amount of time and resource from our brains, as much as anything. So, we're not saying we won't make it to 600, but, who knows? We just
see how it
see what
unfolds.
happens. And in terms of self-publishing, I think the absolute guarantee is that things are going to keep changing, and evolving, and it's not going to stop.
Well, that's the fun of it in some ways.
Exactly. I think you have to, if you're going to be in this world, I think you have to actually embrace that. You don't have to like it, but you have to accept that change is constant. It just is.
Yeah. I agree.
Try not to let it spiral you.
So on that note, where can we be found, Shah?
We can be found at spagirlspodcast.com if you would like to come. So the only way we I guess monetize our podcast is through our Patreon. So you can buy us a coffee, or you can join us on our Facebook group for authors for $10 a month, which is a place that you can share your ups and downs, get critiques, that kind of thing in there, and just mingle with other people in exactly the same boat and very supportive environment. And that's at patreon.com/spagirlspodcast.
Awesome.
And thank you for listening to. If you've been an OG, let us know. I'll remember all the comments because there weren't that any initially. So, Jamie, Karen, if you're listening,
What does
we
OG
remember
stand
those
for?
people.
Original.
But what is OG? Is it just OG is just original? Oh, okay. All right. I was trying to figure out what the G stood for.
Stay with the Spar Girls. You learn something new every day.
Awesome girl. How's that?
That's not awesome with an O.
Yeah, awesome with an O.
Okay.
Only if you're a New Zealander will you get that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening to the 500th episode of the Spagirls podcast. We've been so happy and we feel so privileged to have you all along with us on this journey. We hope that you're doing awesomely well in your own self-publishing careers, and we will see you again next week for the 501st episode. But for now, farewell.
Bye.
Bye.